Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Boss Talk. I'm so glad you all joined us. I'm Beverly Brister, the host of Boss Talk and owner of Beverly's Web Shop. Thank you all so much for joining and tuning in. Please let us know where you're watching us on. I'm live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So please let us know if you're in New Jersey, if you're watching from some other places. I know I have some folks out there that love to watch from out in Cali and ATL. So please join us. I am so happy to have this boss with us this evening, Shantale Pipkins. And I tell you, you're going to love this. I just got to tell you a little bit about her. She's a seasoned entrepreneur and self-proclaimed Jersey girl who started working in aesthetics in 2006. She originally started out doing waxing, facials, makeup, waxing, of course, and she traveled throughout the tri-state area. And after a while, she wanted a little more stability, so she settled down with a major wax salon chain. And over a 10-year period, that's where she honed her skills and her expertise. Now, COVID hits in 2019. And of course, like a lot of other folks, she was laid off. But it was actually a blessing in disguise because that's where she started Elite Waxing Studio. And she grew her business from just 25 clients all the way up to over 300 clients. And I tell you, that's definitely what a boss does, serious boss moves there. So I want to welcome you all to Shantale Pipkins, the owner of Elite Waxing Studio. Hey,
Hi,
Shantale.
everyone. Hi, Beverly. Thanks for having me. I'm
Thank
excited to be
you.
here.
Yes, it's exciting. And I tell you, it's such a great business that I'm starting to get more into because I know waxing's been around for quite a while, but
hmm
now that your salon has popped up nearby, I'm there like every few weeks or so, as you know.
And that's how it should be to get good results from waxing, doing it consistently.
Yes. So, everyone, welcome Shantale Pipkins, the owner of Elite Waxing Studio. Please let us know where you're watching us from. We are live here on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So, let me get started and tell me, what was it about aesthetics that drew you in and eventually led you to waxing?
Um, I have always been interested in like skincare and beauty since I was a kid. I always, I was that kid in the bathroom doing face masks, but back then it was Noxzema masks.
Right.
So I was
You
using my
remember
mom's
Noxzema?
Noxzema. I was in her medicine cabinet putting on. She didn't wear much makeup, but what little bit she had, I used it. Her mascara, her lipstick. I would use lipstick as blush to try to, make something of it. So I was always into beauty and skincare from a young age.
Mm. Yes. When did you realize it was your passion?
Probably right while I was in school, I had decided to pursue aesthetics as a career and I knew I needed training. So
Mm.
when I was in school, I was so happy to be there every day. I couldn't wait to learn more and more. Like I was reading ahead in my aesthetics textbook.
Mm.
I was listening to like this every word that my teacher said. Like I had never been so excited to be in school before. I always
Mm.
liked learning, but aesthetics was just like I couldn't get enough. So
Yeah.
that's when I knew that I was in the right place.
Yeah. It's like you just feel this certain tingle, like that's the thing that just makes your heart hum, right? It's like this
Yeah.
unique thing that when you find it, that passion. What type of training is involved in doing aesthetics, and what type of certifications are needed?
Well, in the state of New Jersey, it's a 600-hour course in skincare in uh, in a cosmetology setting.
Mm.
So I you get 600 hours of training, and then you get a practical exam, and then you take a state board licensing exam, and That's the basics, just to perform skincare aesthetics in New Jersey. After
Mm,
that, there's lots of additional training that an esthetician can get, hands-on training, online courses, things like that, individual classes so that you can hone your skills on a particular genre within aesthetics. There's so many things you can do. You can do waxing, you can do facials, you can do makeup, you can
mm.
do eyelash extensions, you can do body sculpting, all types of things fall under the aesthetics.
Okay. So the certification, like for the 600 hours, that can cover all of those different areas, or like do you have to
Yeah, well,
specialize?
all those things can fall under this the 600 hours. Basically, when you go to beauty school, you get a basic education on the anatomy, physiology, and how to prevent infection and disease, spreading infections and disease. That's probably the most important part of the program. So,
Hmm.
a lot of times when an esthetician is not licensed, you can be sure that they don't understand the anatomy that goes underneath the skin, and they also haven't been fully trained in how to make sure they don't spread diseases.
Ooh, that's definitely important to know. I can imagine that
Right,
there could be some folks that are operating that, or somehow the salon or wherever they're working, it allows them to work without certain licensure. And, that's dangerous, I can imagine.
right. It absolutely is.
Mm,
So I warn people to make sure your esthetician has a license from the state that they're working out of.
absolutely. Makes a difference. Um, so when you were working at the major chain that you worked at, did you find that you had some mentors, as you went along, or was it more of a like a very competitive environment?
Um, it was very competitive, but within the environment, I found colleagues that I would learn from, that I would teach as well. It's nice to be in an environment among colleagues because you can share tips and tricks. You can
Mm,
share, the ups and downs of the business and get better at the business. So I did have colleagues that we worked together and helped one another along so we could all be better.
oh, that's awesome. And I can remember my days, coming up in managing and learning how to run a business. I had more managers that showed me how not to be a manager and the things not to do than to show me the right thing
Right.
to do. And I can imagine you probably ran into quite a bit of that.
I definitely saw a little bit of that. I learned about, how to run a business efficiently, how to be
Mm,
effective, how to market, how to just really give good customer service. I learned that, as I
mm,
progressed. And I also saw some of the things where they really fell short as a
mm,
business
mhm.
and how the management maybe didn't handle some things as well as they could have. And I definitely incorporated the pluses and negatives into how I like to make sure I run the business and things that I would definitely like to avoid.
Right. So I can imagine the day that you opened up Elite Waxing Studio, how exhilarating that must have been, because it's like, here's your baby, and now it's like it's coming to fruition. Did you experience,
Absolutely.
yeah, did you experience any challenges though in setting up your business?
Um, Honestly, in this particular business, the setup was pretty easy. I had been through it before
Mm,
starting a business, so I knew some of the things to expect. One of the things that, went was a little bumpy was being able to accept credit cards. I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't have a merchant account. But I had the mentorship of my friend and colleague, Avian Regan, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get that taken care of." And she really did, give me tips and tricks and ideas. And I was able to open because I felt like you can't run a business without accepting credit cards. That's crazy. And she made sure that I had everything I needed to get started. So she was
mm,
very instrumental in making things go smoothly for me.
that's awesome. And shout out to Avian Regan of Mainstream Beauty Bar. Definitely
Absolutely.
another boss right there, the hair whisperer. So shout out.
Absolutely. She definitely gave me my shot in this business.
That's
Definitely.
awesome. And that's nice to see too that you have another female entrepreneur that's helping. Oftentimes we run into the whole crabs in the barrel, And unfortunately, it's dealing with women of color and people in general that, there's this thing of you feel like it's can only be one person having the success, but yet, again, shout out to Avian, just seeing that camaraderie and that bond, seeing how she operates and how you operate, it just makes a world of difference.
Right. I wouldn't be able to have gotten the success that I have at this point in my business without her help. She was instrumental.
Mm, mm. And I can imagine that, in you thinking forward as a boss and as a business owner for those coming up, the type of example you want to set for others that are walking this path.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yes, absolutely. I definitely believe in reaching out and helping others. That's just something that's just deeply ingrained in me.
yeah,
I always want to make sure that if I'm doing well, that I can help someone else do well and bring them along with me if I can. That's absolutely the way I like to live my life.
great, great, yeah, and there's room in this world for everyone, just because, other people wanting to go in your line of business, do some of the things that you do, doesn't mean that, it's healthy competition. It doesn't mean that, again, like there's only one pedestal that everyone gets to stand on and is no one else. It's really about helping and camaraderie and networking, and you find that you can get more business working together.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah. And now, even though the beauty industry is a bit crowded, what is it about Elite Waxing Studio that distinguishes itself from other waxing salons?
Well, I really take pride in my work, and I really believe deep in my soul that I'm here to help women look and feel better and beautiful, and everything that I do in my business revolves around that.
Mm, mm. And speaking of helping people to feel better, when COVID hit, that just kind of changed the game for everything. And in some places it leveled the playing field, other places it just, you saw disparities. And, I'm hearing stories and have experienced, people who have been on the brink of depression and other, serious mental places that were not necessarily so great. And I know that doing beauty and taking care of yourself kind of helps in that regard. When COVID hit, did you find that, helping people through that, through waxing and through aesthetics, kind of help them?
Absolutely. I feel like when I do someone's waxing or, do their eyebrows, it gives them a little bit of pep in their step. When you
Mm,
groom yourself, it's a way of taking care of yourself, and it's a way to make yourself feel better. And I definitely think that that's important to your mental health, to your wellness, just taking care of yourself. And so waxing is part of your self-care. So, for example, like when the pandemic hit, one of the things that I did to keep myself going, because I was at home, unemployed, nothing to do but chores and clean my house. There was no reason for me to get dressed because I was not going anywhere. For the first 2 days, I stayed in my pajamas. And then I realized how depressing that was. So I made a promise to myself that I'm going to get up, I'm going to shower, I'm going to do my hair, I'm going to do my makeup, and I'm going to the kitchen.
mm.
And I did that every day. And my family were like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, To the kitchen." And they were like, "But you have on makeup." I'm like, "I know." And it actually lifted my spirits to do that. I was starting to feel very sad and depressed and just staring at the walls and not wanting to do another chore
Mhm.
and just putting on a little bit of lip gloss and a little bit of eyeliner, even though no one was seeing me but my family, really made a difference. So I do believe aesthetics is important. How you look definitely helps to improve how you feel.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. It's amazing how, like, even just getting out of a sweatshirt and just
Hmm.
putting a necklace on,
Yep, absolutely. These
it
things are
makes a world
important.
of difference. Yeah. And now, did you find that you had to do business any different when COVID hit with Elite Waxing Studio? Did you have to pivot in any kind of way?
Well, because my business basically started out of the pandemic, I didn't have to make any major changes. Although in the beauty business, especially where I had been previously, I worked very much like back to back around the clock, really fast,
Mm,
one person after another. So with the pandemic, we were forced to social distance, so we can't take as many customers at once. We can't have as many people in the waiting area as once. So I did have to like spread out my appointments, put more space in between them so that
mhm,
less people would bump into each other in the waiting area, things like that. And then I
mm,
had to take extra time to do a deep cleansing of my wax studio to wipe
yeah.
down all the touchable surfaces. So that's
Mhm.
something that, previously we always wiped down and cleaned in between clients, but we just went a little further with it once the pandemic hit.
Yeah. I tell you, it makes a difference when you know it's life or death.
Hmm.
It's like you
Yeah,
bring out Lysol, bleach, everything else.
right. And honestly, like I was saying before, being a licensed esthetician, sanitation and disinfection is really part of the background and the education. So I was already doing most of the things that I'm doing now to prevent spreading of disease. So it wasn't too hard to add a few more steps.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. If you're just joining us, I'm talking with Shantale Pipkins. She's the owner and the boss of Elite Waxing Studio, which can be found inside of Mainstream Beauty Bar in West Orange, New Jersey. Again, let us know where you're watching us from. We're live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And it looks like a gentleman wrote in with a question. Carl wants to know, how have men responded to waxing, and are there certain parts that need a little extra care?
I can answer that. I'm
Yeah.
ready. Okay. Um, well, men have responded to waxing very well. I've been in this business for a long time, over 12, 14 years. Um, I've waxed men over the years. Men need grooming as well. I do
Mhm,
men's brow services. Most men don't want their brows done like I would do most women. So,
mhm,
it's more about just making brows look neat and
mm,
clean and you know groomed, as
right.
opposed to women tend to want a little more shape, a little more arch, and things like that. I do the entire body, so I get a lot of men in when they're ready to go on vacation and they don't want to show off a hairy back or hairy chest. So, I encourage them to come in and do it regularly because it's a lot less pain involved when you wax on a regular basis.
Mm,
And I do both male and female bikini waxing as well.
mhm,
So in the bikini area, that area is very sensitive and can be very delicate. So I take just as much care on male parts as I do on female parts. It's not much of a difference. You have to be careful. It's sensitive, delicate area.
mm. I've seen, there's a lot of other estheticians and those that say they're estheticians out there that use a lot of different products, and they claim they have this wonder, whatever it is, this numbing gel.
Hmm.
Do you find that that works, or things like that help in
Um,
reducing the pain if there's that much pain?
Sometimes, honestly, I personally have not used a numbing product on my person when I'm getting waxed, so I can't speak to how it works. And I don't use them in my practice.
Mm,
I do have some people who have their own numbing products and they put them on when they come in. So I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it. So whatever you need to make yourself feel comfortable, I get it. But sometimes these products can put a film on the skin which makes it difficult to remove the hair. So
mm,
if it's something very oily, I have to clean it off, and that takes more time. And if it's not cleaned off thoroughly, the wax doesn't pick up the hair properly. So it can cause difficulty that way. Also, some people, depending on what the product is, unless it's like a prescription strength, you really may not feel the improvement, but it could be a placebo that makes you feel like it's working.
okay.
And some items have to be put on a certain amount of time before the service. So if you don't put it on long enough before,
Right.
Even if it were to work, it's not going to work because you haven't had it on and hasn't penetrated the skin long enough. So
Mm,
I personally haven't used those products in my practice, but I know there are other estheticians that do.
okay. All right. And we know, like, obviously waxing, does wonders for the skin. You can see the benefit. You have
Hmm.
your smooth, hair-free skin. But what hidden benefits would you say are there to waxing?
Well, one of the hidden benefits is when you're grooming yourself, you feel better. So when you're taking care of yourself and you're making yourself feel neat and clean and groomed, it's going to give you a mental boost. A lot of
Mm.
women feel when they wax, they feel more sexy, they feel, more confident in themselves. So I definitely feel like that's probably one of the hidden benefits that people don't necessarily realize when you're doing waxing body services.
No, that's a big intangible too that makes a world of difference because how you
Hmm.
feel about yourself and you carry yourself. If something can change to make that a more positive scenario for you, then that's golden. I can
Right.
imagine that person will definitely be your client for life.
I've had some clients that I've been waxing from the very beginning of my aesthetics career, so it's really nice
Mm,
to know that, I'm doing a good job that they would stick with me that long.
mm, it's amazing. And shout out to all those who do what you do, and those of you, and especially you, who takes the time and to really learn and know the craft, because educating us when we come in and we're like a little scared or skittish a little bit, it just really helps. And we can tell if it's just you're trying to push a sale versus you really know your stuff. And I have to say that every time that I ask you a question, I get a full explanation, and it's not just a like, to hurry up to get me out the door. So I thank you for really knowing your craft.
I really try to, and I'm gonna go back to that numbing thing.
Mhm.
So I don't use numbing cream, but one of the things that I've been told by many of my clients is I give them a as pain-free as possible of a service. So
Mhm.
I'm good at the job. So not every esthetician is gentle. Not every esthetician does it properly in terms of removing the hair on the body in a way that creates the least amount of pain. There is pain involved, but depending on who's doing your service, it can really make a difference in the level of discomfort that you feel. So
Mm.
that's one of the reasons why I feel like numbing isn't really necessary.
Okay. All right. Fair. Now, for those that continue to shave or maybe shave some areas that they don't want waxed,
Hmm.
what are some do's and don'ts that we should follow? Because I can imagine the shaver stays in the shower for several months for
Yes,
some.
yes. Although I am an esthetician who waxes, and I personally I no longer own a razor. There are do's and don'ts. So one thing that you need to do, which most people are not doing, is you need to use a new, fresh razor every time. You need to throw out the razor that you used last time when you're done with it and get a new one. A lot of people do not do that. A lot of people reuse their razor. If you are going to reuse your razor, it needs to be cleaned and sanitized because any bacteria that's on your skin is now in that razor and you've not cleaned and sanitized it. So that's
Mm.
another thing. If you're reusing it, you're introducing those back. Also, a huge don't is reusing the razor that you left in the shower or in your bathroom also, but definitely in the shower because the moisture builds
Mm.
up on the razor and it makes little micro indentations in the
Mm.
razor that you can't necessarily see, but your skin will feel. And that
Oh.
will also increase your irritation and razor burn. So that's why you should just start with a new razor. So if you don't start with a new razor, there's going to be micro indentations in the blade. There's going to be bacteria on that blade and then
Mm.
you're putting it on your delicate skin repeatedly. So that's a huge no. So just get a new razor.
Makes me look at it differently now. Does it make any
That's the
difference?
number one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Does it make a difference if it's like 2 blades, 5 blades? Because they have like there's a whole aisle worth of those.
I think once you get beyond two or three, it's a little bit overkill.
Mm,
If you one blade is going to cut the hair, the second blade is going to cut any hair that was missed, maybe the third hair, but after that point, there's no hair left. So once you get to 5 blades, I think that's gimmicky.
mm.
I don't think you're getting much of a difference.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We lost Chantel for a second. All right. Well, we are talking with Shantale Pipkins, the owner of Elite Waxing Studio. Looks like the feed dropped a little bit. We will get her back in 1 second. There we go.
Hey, I got lost in cyberspace for a second.
That's all right. The beauty of live, right? So again, we're talking with Chantal Pipkins, the owner of Elite Waxing Studio, and we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So please let us know if where you're watching us from. If you missed any part of this, we'll continue to be on the stream, so you can go back and watch it. And she is definitely giving us some boss tips with waxing and some do's and don'ts for those that continue to use a razor. And now, what what services do you offer in total for at Elite Waxing Studio?
Well, I haven't counted them all, but I do waxing from head to toe. So basically from your hairline down to the top of your feet, anything on the body. I do not wax the head or scalp. And
Okay.
I don't do palms or the bottom of the feet because there's no hair there. But everything else is included. I also do, along with brow sculpting, which is the shaping of the brow, I do a brow tinting. So
Okay.
that's the only service that's not a wax that I'm offering right now.
Okay. And that's with henna, right? Or is it
Yes, that's a henna tint. So it's a vegetable-based tint that I use on the brows.
all right. Great. Well, thank you so much for all the tips that you've given us. And please let us know um, what information you can give for those that are interested in getting into the beauty business or becoming an esthetician. What tips that can you give the up and coming entrepreneur, or those that just wanting to get into the business to start off before owning?
If you're going to get into the beauty business as an esthetician or cosmetologist, you must go to school. You must pass your state board licensing exam in order to have a license in the state. So start with that.
Mm,
I had one person contact me and they asked me, could I teach them waxing? I was like, yeah, that's great.
mhm,
Definitely. And I was like, so do you have your license? She was like, no. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't teach you. And that because you need to know the basics of the anatomy of the skin and the
mm,
body. And if you haven't gotten a license, you don't know that. And beware of taking certification classes. It's
mm,
not license class. It's just teaching you the skills of a specific segment of beauty, but it's not going to teach you any of the underlying physiology or anatomy or disinfection, sanitation, and disease prevention. So,
mm,
and these classes can be costly. And I would say also, if you're going to get into beauty, skincare, find focus. There are so many things you can do. So sometimes estheticians do a lot of different things and they're
yeah,
not necessarily good at any of them. So I would say find one or two things, maybe three. Don't do 10 because you're spreading yourself thin. Focus and
mm.
get good at one thing and then move on to something else and get good at that and then add that to your menu of services.
That makes a lot of sense. Because I see a lot of folks that they're I guess almost like dermatologists, where they offer a bevy of things that you could do, everything from Botox to waxing. It's sort of like a one stop shop, and it's like
Hmm.
think about that. It's like, well, what are they actually good at? I
Right.
know it all deals with the skin, but what are they really good at?
Hmm.
So having a niche that definitely makes a difference. And please tell us where we can find your shop.
Well, Elite Waxing Studio is located inside of the Mainstream Beauty Bar Hair Salon in West Orange. We're at 102 Harrison Avenue in West Orange. You can find information about me if you Google me. You can find information on my Facebook and Instagram pages at Elite Waxing Studio. And you can, if you have questions for me or if you want to see pictures of my work, if you want to hear customer testimonials and reviews and see them, you can find them there.
Awesome, awesome. And I want to make sure that everyone can see the website where they can book appointments with you, where you can be found on Facebook and Instagram. And
Right.
also, your address is 102 Harrison Avenue in
In
West
West
Orange, New
Orange.
Jersey.
Yep.
All right.
Yes, and you can book online 24 hours a day at the mainstreambeautybar.com. You can set up a profile. It's really easy. You can see my availability. It's live, so whatever you see on there that's available, that's actually what's there. And you can book even on the days that we're not open. You can still book an appointment.
Awesome. Well, Chantal, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing these boss tips and letting people know about what's involved in waxing and, Elite Waxing Studio and your expertise, and definitely showing everyone how much of a boss you are in all that you do. And I appreciate you. And thank you for being on the show. And thank you for, again, just sharing your knowledge. And we
Thank you.
appreciate you being on the show, definitely.
Thank you, Beverly. I really appreciate you talking to me and introducing me to your fans, and for them to learn about Elite Waxing Studio is amazing. I hope that they, find more about me and come book an appointment.
Sure, sure. And again, with Shantale Pipkins of Elite Waxing Studio, again, you can find her, you can book appointments at mainstreambeautybar.com. You can find her on Instagram at Elite Waxing Studio, and also on Facebook, just type in Elite Waxing Studio. So again, thank you so much for being a part of the show. And anyone who missed any part of this, it's going to be on the stream, so you can play it back and share. And please tag another boss. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you all for
Thank
watching.
you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.